Today, Matthew and I realized we're kind of old. We're getting old. We've been doing this a long time. And I was reminded even more of that because we talked to a young upstart firm this week who asked us an interesting question. And that was, what are some of the memorable milestones that we've had over the years that we look back at, like that kind of indicated growth and scale? What were some of those interesting milestones that they should either look forward to, be fearful of, whatever they might be? So we're talking milestones as we do a little bit of a retrospective back on meaningful inflection points here at Acuity. All that today on Drink While You Think, the happy hour discussion amongst a couple of weirdos who are building their firm in bizarre ways that will probably influence all these milestones as we talk about them. And as always, your host Kenji here with my main man Matthew right over there. And Mr. May, I see you smiling, getting excited about this topic, but like,
No, I'm laughing because you're slow today. Like
I'm
your
always
pace
slow.
is slow. I'm like,
I'm
I should have
slow,
opened
dude.
the beer earlier. Like
Dude,
that's
I'm
pretty
trying to
bad.
use a nice radio voice today. How about that?
Okay, keep your radio voice, but let me
You like
get
that?
started. I'm gonna
Get
start drinking.
started, Matthew, in drinking. And while you pop that frosty beverage, tell us who's sponsoring.
Oh, we're gonna do the sponsor first. Today's episode of Drink While You Think is sponsored by Verify IQ. If you haven't checked out their new product, Sales IQ, now you can bring quality control to your sales team. I cannot believe it. And don't worry if you haven't looked at Verify IQ in a while. Just know Byron Patrick's been in there fixing all the shit that I messed up. so so check it
Byron,
out.
Byron, help us, please.
Yeah.
So
So
maybe this episode's sponsored by Byron.
yeah, this episode is sponsored by Byron Patrick.
Byron,
Um, 2 months into helping fix Verify IQ and bring it into
making it
this.
better.
Oh, he is a breath of fresh air. I'm drinking
I like
Flat
that guy.
Iron Fog, a hazy IPA. It is from Four Noses Brewery. I think
Borgnosis.
is
That
that
is from our buddy Roman, who
oh,
sent
he
that.
doesn't get any shout
I
outs.
drank that the other week. That's from Broomfield, Colorado. Once again, Broomfield, Colorado,
Okay.
the home of Kenji's middle brother. Did you
Yeah,
know that?
I don't I don't watch it when I'm not on it, so I didn't know what you drank. Sorry about that. What are you
Selfish.
drinking?
Are you ready for this? Check out what I'm drinking. For those who can see and are following on home, I
Oh
am
wow.
drinking a bright cotton colored looking beverage. This is the Sweetwater Gummies Fruit Punch IPA, meaning a double IPA. And if you can see it, it's literally got like gummies and like candy and things on it.
It's a
It's
9.5%.
it's a nine and a
That's
half.
stuff. And
It,
it's a
it's
tall guy.
it's a nine and a half, and it's 19.2 ounces. I have no idea why they have those ounces. Oh my gosh, this is going to be I saw this one in my local gas station right down the street, and I was like, I'm getting this just because it looks so bizarre, and I got to give the people what they want: some strange, unique, bizarre drinks. Um,
Well, good deal.
this is going to be interesting. So let me take a quick sip here, and we're going to get into our topic. Cheers, Matthew.
Cheers, man. So you were telling me right before this started that is that bad? Oh yeah, we're gonna make him drink that whole thing today. Okay.
Oh man, this is going to be bad.
Okay. So give everybody, like you were telling me that you were talking to some people that have an Atlanta firm and they asked you this question, right?
Yeah. I was talking to some new friends I met, Paris and James Williams. They're a couple running their firm. We've seen that a few times. Young couple starting their firm, and it's next level finance. Good shout out to Paris and James, some really good folks. And they're kind of just getting started in kind of building their firm. And we talked for about an hour, but at the end, Paris asked the question. She was like, I mean, what are these? You guys have been doing it, these milestones. Like, what were the memorable milestones as you were kind of growing and scaling? And so, yeah, I had to look back and think about those. because there've been probably quite a few of them along the way. We may have some of the same. I think we do. There's probably some also that are different, but
Well, I mean,
that was the question.
you had the first 8 years, right? So you have to tackle the first 8 years. So
Yeah, I'll take that one.
like when you think of the first 8 years, you kind of 0 to 1.2 million or something like that from a revenue perspective, first 10
Yeah,
employees, like
yeah.
what what were the big ones for you?
I think certainly the big uh, is amazing when you just realize clients will actually pay you. You're like, that's just kind of wow. But I mean, let's blow through that as a milestone because otherwise none of us would be here if clients that actually buy the services we were selling. The bigger deal to me was the first employee. I mean, I still can't get over these people who join you and you're like, then there were no benefits. There were like there was nothing. It was like, do you want to sign up? And Matt Smith, yes, I know it's a generic name, but he is a real person. He signed up as our first employee. And I just actually had, and Matt was with us for a couple of years. I just had beers with him recently, and he's now CFO of like private equity backed health IT firms. I mean, he's killing it. But like, it's just amazing that like, why would you even take the risk of joining a bunch of knuckleheads? Like, I just remember that being a big deal. Like it got real, like really real.
Well, he didn't get a twofer back then, so he only was joining your knucklehead, kind of world.
Golly, but it just
Not
is
if
like,
I had been there, then it would have been all over, dude. People would have been like, just stay away.
just stay away. That's true. I was still in my like trying to be professional. I think I was still like occasionally maybe wearing a blazer to the office. Like we weren't doing this. We weren't rocking baseball caps and t-shirts all the time for sure. So I think I was still pretending to be an accountant, a professional accountant.
So what was the first time where you're like, can you remember the first time you could like pay your bills? Like, or would that happen like really early out of the shoot? You know what I mean? Where
That
you're,
happened super early. I mean, one of my story around that one was I made, commitment to my wife. I was like, if we had one little one at home and a baby on the way, I was like, I'm going to try this for 6 months. And if I can't replace my income in 6 months time, like it's done. Like I'm out. Like I'm not, I was somewhat entrepreneurial, but like, I'm like, I am going to be stupid. Like I'm a very marketable accountant in other places. Just because I want to do this, I'm like, I don't have to drag my poor family and like little ones into this if this isn't working. And so I put a very clear time block on this. So once we crossed that threshold, and those are back in the day when there's almost no overhead to speak of. So every dollar you bill is literally flowing back into your pocket. So I actually think that was an easy time, really easy time to like generate cash flow. I felt like, and partly because I've been given really lucky opportunities. I mean, I'd worked for Arthur Andersen. They were the big firm in Atlanta. Everybody knew them. Got lucky to get a job there, so that was on my resume. I ended up lucking into a CFO gig. I was a controller for a hot second. The CFO left. I took over the CFO role at a fairly well-known technology company in town, way above when I should have. So I lucked into like, this isn't working. I'll just go back to go getting paid by someone else to do work that, I could do. I wasn't crazy about. So,
yeah,
but I just something about like, I wasn't was worried about myself. I get worried about others. Like, right. That,
I hear you.
that's the thing that you're like, oh, that kind of gets the pucker factor. So that was a big milestone with Matt Smith came on. It was fun to tell him that over beers. Like, man, that was a huge deal. And I'm happy to see him doing well. Um, I think the next one, again, I want to get pretty quickly up to time when you and I were both there, so we can both talk about more shared, I think, milestones. Um, there was the big client, and that was Acuity team members hear me talk about this because it was really important to me. And that was when we landed the client Spanx. I think most people know about Spanx. Back in the day, I didn't know much about them, but the really unique thing was in our second year, we got an opportunity to go pitch and do part-time controller and CFO work out for Spanx. And we get out there and we were notified that, hey, guess what? Kenji, we're gonna give you 30 days. Well, the challenge was we're gonna give another firm. You guys are gonna have to work together. You're gonna have to compete against each other and work together. And the other firm was Tatum Partners. And Tatum Partners was literally the firm that created fractional CFO. They're the ones who created it. They sold to Ronstadt many years ago, a public staffing company. They created the space. And um, I remember the guy I went up head to head with was like my dad's age. He was so much older than me, so much more experienced than me. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm done. I'm done. I guess I'll get 30 days of billing out of this. But
Which
like,
is like not our age now, by the way.
exactly, exactly. It was like, but I'm like, this guy's gonna crush me. And the 30 days came and went, and we get called into the CEO's office one by one. And she tells me, hey, guess what? Congratulations, Kenji, you're staying. And I was like, what? I didn't say that. I was, oh, thank you very much. But I was like so confused. And so I was too scared to ask her why at that point because I didn't want her to rethink it. And so
Is this when Lori's CEO?
Lorianne, yeah, Lorianne was CEO. And so finally I got to know her better. And I asked her later, I said, why did I get to stay? And she said, because we liked you more. And I was like, well, it's got to be more than that. And it was basically the other guy was a bit demeaning. He was very bright. It's a almost all female company. And I think they felt a little bit treated like this guy knew more than them. And they weren't down for that. They were like, you were kind and friendly to us. We liked you. Um, and it just sounds basic and simple, but it was such a revelation to me at the time to where, oh my gosh, we're not just competing on financial aptitude and technical skills. These clients need to understand that we care about them, that we're here to work with them. It was
And
huge. That was a big,
and
big
they like
milestone.
you, huh?
That it was a huge thing. I don't care how good you are unless it's the most super niche specific thing in the world. If they don't like you, you're going to get fired. You should get fired. There's got to be someone else in the world who can do what you do. So guess what? You better be freaking likable. If you can't do that, you're out. There's a lot of other accountants out there, people. So you better figure that out quick and
That's
get
pretty funny.
likable. And then I think that the one that kind of you and I that led to was when my other co-founder, Stuart, when he and I were working together after 8 years, he decided to go take an opportunity with one of our clients. And I had to buy Stuart out. And
Oh, that's a milestone.
it was a big milestone. It was stressful. It was scary. It was exciting because I felt like I got to do something on my own. But it was a big risk. It actually felt like a bigger risk buying him out than it did starting Acuity. But we got through that, and he was a great partner, and he was great in that transaction. He really had a strong desire to see Acuity go on and be successful. So it was a very amicable situation. And I think I learned a lot about that too, that deals can be very amicable. Like both parties can want the best for each other and want the best for, in this case, Acuity, something we'd worked on before. So that was a good lesson there and a good milestone. And that gets us to
My milestone? Wait, I
you and me
mean,
together.
buying half of Acuity was a pretty fucking big milestone for me personally. Like that was definitely
Huge.
like that was like my entrance into entrepreneurship, really. I mean, being that's really bad. You should stop drinking that. Just go
Sorry,
get it. Go
people
get go get a different one.
who can't
Oh,
see. I got to fight through it for the group for the people. Sorry, you can't
yeah.
see. The reason why I interrupted Matthew is with my facial expressions having more of this beer. But keep going.
Yeah.
I'll try to hide my
Yeah,
face better.
whoever's on YouTube could see it. But yeah, I mean, getting like I know I was the partner at accounting firm technically, but like it felt like my first foray into being an entrepreneur. I was buying, half of Acuity and doing that and being crazy. And then the first week, my next milestone was a $9,000 billing week. When I first started, the first week I started, $9,000 billing week, dude. I don't know how
We
it
were
got
rocking
down
back
that,
then. Wow.
dude. I'm telling you. Okay, first of all, Kenji sold me a bill of goods because it was supposed to be like a million two practice. And like, okay, I'm just gonna do the math. Million two divided by 52 should be 23K a week. So I'm expecting 20 to 25K
People were
billings.
probably on vacation or something. Oh, it was like a holiday or something. Who
There was
knows?
not, people were not fucking on vacation. So Kenji had let this, like he had just been like letting things go in the 3 months
I had
from
my
when I had
feet
to
kicked up,
quit
and
and
I was
yeah.
partying and just like, yeah, let him.
So
Not true.
that was a big
It was a
milestone
big
for me,
milestone.
clearly. So
That
nine
was a big
thousand
one.
dollars. That was my heart attack month.
Yeah, you and I were both having collective heart attacks. I know you were. We all were. It was probably a good, like, this was fun. We had a good time telling our friends about what we were going to do, and then it was like it was so real, like nothing like going, oh shit, we got to get this out of the ditch and let's go.
Yeah.
And we did. We put our nose down and we started grinding, and we were
Yeah.
we were
Awesome.
we were grinding and very experimental. What do you think comes
Yeah.
after? What's the next thing you think after, like, just getting together? You felt like was something that's memorable milestone for us?
Writing checks back to the business was the first memorable.
Look at Matthew thinks of all the negative things. You like this?
Uh,
When did we
but
do that?
after that,
How
so
long was
that
that?
we wrote
Probably that
checks
probably
for
that probably that first year
we
after we.
wrote checks. My first K1 was negative $8,000, dude, for the year.
I thought that
Negative
was a good
eight.
tax strategy for you. I was trying to help you
Uh,
on the tax side.
yeah, that didn't fucking help at all. Um, so the next one I'll say, I really enjoy all the million-dollar milestones. So like we've had a bunch now, right? So
You
a
are very
million.
numerical. You love those. Yeah.
I love hitting a million when we hit a million in revenue the second year after it should have been there the
It's like our
first year.
fifth
But
time we hit it. We
okay.
dipped
And
down a little bit one year, but
then
we're
I
doing
loved
great.
hitting two, loved hitting three, loved hitting four. Five was great. Six was so effing hard. Like we just got stuck at five for so long. I think we skipped seven, went straight to eight. Then we had nine, 10, and just last year was 11. So I like that. And then while we're on the revenue train, like the $1 million month. So
That was fun. Yep.
we've had two $1 million months. Those are those are all kind of fun numerical milestones like that.
He's the true accountant, right? He's the true accountant. He's
Well,
in the
what was your next one there? Like right after we joined, like right after I came on. What was
I it's hard to remember exactly when it was, but when we started seeing the bookkeeping piece take off, like there were some
hmm,
things that happened that I don't think we were prepared for that I thought were super cool. Like all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, we have clients who aren't in Atlanta. Like all of a sudden, like that's weird. Like I was just crazy
that
because
was
we
weird
we knew most of them, and then very quickly beyond that, we started having team members who were like not
in Atlanta.
in Atlanta, and so
That was weird.
the focus on just building something that really our clients were demanding, and we realized was going to be good, and that was a more transactional bookkeeping. It really led us into this place of this. I mean, now we could call it a global expansion. Back then, it was just like, it's weird that we're not all in Atlanta. That was a strange phenomenon that I think kind of got me. I remember a little giddy of like, whoa, that is interesting, right? That
Yep.
was, yeah. And so I remember that was a big milestone. I remember going into the Atlanta Tech Village with our satellite office in there. Like
Yeah.
we pushed ourselves to kind of create almost like a startup within Acuity of
Yeah.
like, oh, we've got the main business, but like we got to think real scrappy. And you and I like just started spending a ton of time down there. Like we just went real deep in with, we already kind of were deep with tech conference, but all of a sudden we're like, it felt like I spent a lot of time feeling like, and I think I heard Roman mention this about being a service provider. Like you're just a service provider. And somewhere in there, when we went down to the tech village, we started launching the bookkeeping. It used to be called Acuity Complete. That was the name of our bookkeeping. Acuity Complete. What a
Yeah.
dumb name. And somewhere in there, I don't know if you felt this way. I started feeling more like an entrepreneur, like a business owner than an accountant and service provider. I hated being called service provider. It's like, oh, we'll let you, you can come to this event, but you're a service provider. Like, bro, don't pitch me. We're like, we're not here just to pitch. We're here to learn. We're here to be part of the community. And it just started transitioning to where people saw us. I don't know if you remember when that was. There's probably not a debate when people started seeing us. I say people, entrepreneurs started seeing us as fellow entrepreneurs and not just as like, oh, you're just the accountant's trying to pitch me.
That was probably the EO days,
Yeah.
like right when we were joining EO and stuff like that. Yeah. Uh,
That was a big deal for me. That was a big deal for me not to feel like just a service provider.
I have a random one.
Yeah.
I remember because we had written, when we were writing checks back to the business, like sometimes, like it was always around payroll, right? So I remember when payroll and like the biweekly payroll was bigger than I could float.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah,
So like I think my line that we had, like that I had available, I had like $300,000 or something.
yeah.
And when the semi-monthly payroll went over 300, I was like, I don't even, what happens if something goes wrong?
Yeah, that's again, see, Matthews
Or
are
what
these
is,
pucker moments. These
I mean, I don't know.
again,
That
thank
was
God for Matthew who focuses on these things because you're right. If you look at that stuff too much, it can just be it makes me crazy. But you realize how much is going out each pay period because you just are adding so many heads, and exactly all it takes, especially if there are still a lot of receivables, which we carry those still. If you got a lot of them on the books, I mean, it can be
that's a lot.
you had a slow down and you're in a tough spot. A lot of firms know about that. That is difficult. That can be real difficult. So you're right. That's that
Uh,
payroll grew and you're like, whoa, that's how much is going out the door. That's
oh,
big.
okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So this is not milestone. Can you remember the biggest client that ever stiffed you?
Oh no. I think I've tried to burn those from our brain. Yeah. I well,
Was
I
that,
can
I know it's not a milestone, it's just a tangent. So I was like,
I
wondering,
could think of one.
you can think of how big was it, you think?
I don't
Don't
remember how
tell,
big it was.
what?
Um, was it six figures?
I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know what you're thinking of.
I'm thinking of there was an ice cream company.
The ice cream company? I don't remember how big that was.
I
I
got
don't
that.
think that was six figures.
I don't think so.
The one I could think of was like 30K, and it was like the Mexican hot dog vendor. Do you remember that?
There was a public company, right?
Well, it was a biotech that bought a public shell that literally the public shell's job on the previous filing was like the Mexican, like the hot dog vending carts in Mexico. Like I'm not joking, it was a Mexican hot dog vendor public company shell that they bought. I don't know why I didn't expect that one.
And we and we got stiffed by that. What could go wrong?
What could go
That just
wrong?
sounds like
What could go wrong?
a Netflix documentary right now.
So
You know
those
what I
are
mean?
like those aren't milestones, but
They're
those are
memorable.
those are memorable.
Um, I mean, I remember it was kind of all around the same time, but stopping billing, like when I was like, okay, I got to stop billing. I've got to stop billing and working on that. That was
I was
interesting.
saving that one
That's a
because
yeah.
that was
We had them at different times.
what year was that for you? That was
The same
13 for
year,
you?
yeah, yep.
That was 13 for you, and that was 19 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, it was in the
You were doing some partials, yeah.
it was might be 21. But like something like that. Yeah.
Do
I
you
was
miss
gonna
it? I mean, at all?
yeah, I'm doing a little like client work right now, doing the crypto stuff now that AJ left. Like so um the interesting thing is I'm not very good at it now. Like is the
Hmm.
really thing, like the interesting thing to me is like
Why
I
do you say
used to,
that? Like,
do you remember how you could just crank?
oh yeah.
I've lost that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like I don't have the context and getting the context takes too long. Like I don't have the time to get the context to be able to crank. So that's
Yeah.
super interesting. So I'm having to really figure out how to be a better enabler of the team we have
Mm,
because previously, you and I would just fix shit
yeah.
by just cranking, right? We would just
Yeah.
go in there and crank, right? And now we have to be enablers because we don't have the context
Yeah.
or the availability to get the context. We don't have enough time to get the context to be able to crank. It's really weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but
You know, here's another milestone. I'm bouncing around a bit, but just these things are gonna hit me all of a sudden. Um, the first time our sales team closed the deal. Like this is
with
a
without us,
without a non-accountant. Like, all right, this is a
Yeah.
non-accountant just closing deals. Was like it, you. It felt almost. This is accountants don't want to say this word, but I think you'll understand the context. It felt fraudulent. It felt like we just pulled something over on somebody. Like, right? I mean, we're an actual accounting firm, but like when we have a guy who was, his previous experience had been working in bars and restaurants, just sold an accounting deal, right? And you're going, oh my gosh. And he just had a lot of, I mean, he just had a lot of like just go get it and like aggressive, like let's close things. And he started closing deals, but it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We have non-accountants who are closing accounting deals. That was
Yeah.
mind blowing. That was is a little scary at first, and we certainly did some things that were like, yikes, we've made some commitments and promises that we couldn't keep up with in some cases, but we got that kind of dialed in. That was wild. That was a wild revelation, wild milestone when you're not billing and you're not selling. Someone else is doing it. It's like, that's just nuts.
Yeah. Um, I do have
Yeah.
another one, different. It's like whatever the accounting famous milestone was, like we're like people started asking us to talk on stage
Oh,
and like
yeah.
ask us questions initially. And you're like, people were like, told us, somebody said that to us one time, you're accounting famous.
You're like, wait,
Like,
what?
like whatever that is. So like that was kind of a weird, that was a really cool milestone. Like
Do you
other
remember when that
people,
was? Like, do you remember like year wise? It's gonna be hard to figure. Probably the past couple of
it
years.
happened for you way earlier than me based on how we
The
had.
weird name. I've been around longer, and the weird name kind of stands out. Um,
No, you were out there. We had you out there
yeah, I had
from
out there,
first.
but also those things definitely help. Um,
Yeah. So,
um, I got a couple people ones.
oh, people ones.
Yeah, this one I don't want to spend a lot of time on this one because it makes me really sad. I remember um, having a team member pass away.
Oh, that was weird.
That was really, I remember exactly where I was. I was actually at a Zero. We just won an award, like a Partner of the Year award from
Oh, you were in New
Zero.
Mexico.
I was in New Mexico. I was in Santa
Yeah.
Fe. And I remember finding out the news. And actually, it was one of the, you know what? It was one of the first times I've ever used, this was years ago, I ever used video to communicate back to the company. And I just remember in my hotel room, like just recording it and just, and people know what happened. It was just really, I don't know. That was really tough. It was really tough. On a brighter side, obviously, let's move to that. Team members having kids, right? And actually
Grandbabies. Grand.
grandbabies, but the one that we've had more recently, we've had two recently that were actually super cool, like really cool, like more cool than I thought a milestone would be. Team members who retired.
Well, I'll add to that. We
Yeah.
also had a team member just get engaged. So we're like living the life cycle.
Oh
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Someone,
You're
yeah, because
like,
people got
so
engaged and
we've had, yeah, I mean, when Trisha retired, that had to be a milestone for you. Like for
oh,
me,
it was
like that was
big.
like
Even Debbie before that.
Debbie,
But when
like
Trisha
Trisha.
did, and we kind of took her out, like it's just a when someone's with you and they've been with you for a while and then they leave, there's so many negative connotations with leaving, right? We all like, oh, you can't find enough accountants these days, and then when they leave, and then it stinks when you lose a great person, but when you this person is leaving and they're like, hey, I'm retiring. And you're like, wait, what? They're like, no, there's nowhere else I want to work but here. I'm just done working. And their next thing they're doing is I remember when Trisha was like, yeah, my husband just retired from Coca-Cola. I'm retiring from Acuity. And we're going on a lifelong dream. She was a tennis player in college, a very good tennis player. I remember they went to the Australian Open after they retired, went to Australia and traveled. And it just that was a great milestone. That was like completely unexpected. Like to have someone with you for that long. She was instrumental in building the bookkeeping practice.
How many
And
years was she? Was she
she
11?
was
10 or
11
11?
years with us,
She was
10 or 11
between 10
years.
and 11, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And she was just, but that was, I never expected that as a milestone. That was a cool one. Like just,
That's a really cool one.
I
I think
love
the
that.
first time we had a 10-year employee, that was really cool to think about.
Yeah.
Like
Whoa. We've
how
been
do we
10 years.
acknowledge the 10-year anniversary? That was kind of a cool milestone.
That was a good one. That was a
Oh,
really good
I
one.
got another people one.
Yeah.
Yeah, having Patty call us and say, "Hey, we want to talk about joining, like combining companies." Like
Yeah.
a peer we respected in the space, been known forever, right? Because you had
Yeah.
known her 4 years by then.
I
Like
had really through accounting salon, we just became
people like
really
when Tyler heard that we were talking to Catching Clouds, when Tyler heard we were talking to Catching
our
Clouds,
head of sales. Yeah.
he was like, "Oh, I've watched all her videos, or I've watched
Yeah.
so many of her videos. Like
Yeah.
that's how I get educated on e-commerce." Like
Yeah.
having somebody like that reach out to us, like because it was different. We had a bunch of people reach out, maybe doing that, but having a peer reach out to us and be like, I don't know, that was really cool for me. I
We'd
thought
done
that
an
was
acquisition before, right? So we knew that. And I mean, that's somewhat of a milestone, but you're right. I don't know that I felt like doing an
I didn't feel
acquisitions
like that was a,
transaction.
I felt like that was
But
like a business
when a
transaction.
peer,
No,
someone you respect, reaches out and says, "Hey, can we do something together?" And was
that was pretty cool.
so serious about it that we consummated it in a
Merger.
merger. Like that's a big deal. That's a huge
That was a big
milestone.
deal.
That was a big milestone there. There's a lot. It's funny now you think about it, there's a lot of them. I was a little bit like, oh, when I was talking to, Paris and James, I'm like, oh, I don't know. There's a couple things, but I guess is when you and I think about things that are memorable to us, I think everyone will have memorable moments as you build a firm. There will be those very specific ones of when you cross certain revenue thresholds, where you stop billing or you stop selling or employee headcount. There's going to be those are memorable. Those are absolutely memorable.
Yeah.
They're important. There's going to be some
Oh,
ones too that are just like, I never would have thought that. Right.
I mean, if you're talking about like impactful milestones,
Yeah.
oh, the first Philippines trip, dude.
Oh, man. That was
Like,
huge.
like for me, like, whoa, like from a worldview perspective, from everything perspective, I cannot believe you're drinking that beer.
I know. I'm fighting through it, but I'm doing it for the listeners. This is all for the
Do it for the
listeners.
1.0 rating at the end. Um, like that Philippines trip was a milestone. Oh, I forgot. On top of that, AcuityCon. So
Oh
AcuityCon
yeah.
was a huge milestone. The thing like that the employees came in was not a big milestone to me. Like that was cool. But that was
Yeah.
like you work here, it's going to be a company meeting, you're coming in. When like whatever it was, 15 tech partners came and showed up, that was the milestone to me. That was
That
like,
was big.
oh, that was a awakening moment for me. It was like, oh,
And
like
dude, you pushed that one because you were like, oh, do this Acuity Con. And I was like, we talked about it. I'm like, I kept thinking, dude, this is going to be a pain in the ass. This is going to be a lot of work. I don't know about this. Do we
it is
need
a lot,
this?
it is a
And
lot of
it
work.
was, we were both right. It's a lot of work, but I'm really glad you pushed that because it's become so important to us. We've learned so much. And you're right. That's monumental. I think about now we're entering our sixth Acuity Con this year.
Oh man,
Like
it's
those
crazy.
are great milestones. That international team members like that, not just like a random person who went and traveled. Like we have a density of team members who are international, and yeah, getting on that flight, that trip, that's still one of those videos I would go back and watch occasionally to lift my spirits. Is that Philippines video of our trip, and I just
Oh
see
yeah.
us and them, and just the smiles, and when I get to talk about them or hear about the good work they're doing, and I'm like, oh, I just like the St. Lucia trip I did this year, the team down there. Those are great milestones. Those are great ones around people. Yeah. It's just I think of any other good ones. And those are, I guess, as you're an accounting firm kind of going through these, you will again, you're going to have these numerical ones, these ones of like just getting there. There's going to be some times I think you're gonna like, man, they just got really hard. There'll be those stuck points, like we talked about, like getting
Oh
stuck
yeah.
at 5 or getting stuck at 1 million. So getting to
Yeah.
breaking through that and figuring out how to break through it is helpful. We could look back and that's a whole other topic to discuss of how you break it looking back, like, oh, we broke through 1 because we did this, or we broke through 5 because we did this. And those may be good ones in the future to kind of dig in on because I think we get that question a lot. Like what really did it? And it might take us going back and really studying, like, okay, what
Yeah,
was
we'd
it we
have to
did?
actually think about the podcast before if we're doing that kind of
I
stuff. We
know,
we
which is
might
kind of
have to do
wild.
that as like a presentation at a conference because those we actually prepare for. So
Well, we'll see this year. We're gonna have an interesting one. Our first, it's finally on the books, folks. We've talked about, and actually Matthew, we shouted out like what conferences are you most looking forward to? This is in our predictions podcast earlier this
yeah.
year, and Matthew predicted that the Bridging the Gap conference, is like this going to be this new one because it does such a good job of crossing kind of the chasm of like big firms and the early modern firms, and it's cool to announce like we've got some speaking slots there. And I think this will be the first time ever, actually ever, you and I are sharing the stage, the two of us, and we're going to talk about the title of our talk is on partnerships and how two partners have managed not to kill each other after the past, I guess, 10, 11 years. And so we got to get through to
Oh yeah.
July and not kill each
11.
other.
It'll be 11 by that.
Yeah, it will
Oh,
be.
do you know what I figured out? The 20th anniversary of Acuity is the day we fly in for Bridging the Gap.
Oh, yeah, per the legal docs. Yeah.
Yeah. So like
Okay. Oh,
like
okay. Well, we'll get. So you're saying
like
we're gonna
the
get a little. We're gonna
formation
get a little
date.
crazy. We're gonna get a little crazy in Chicago. Look out, Chicago. We're coming in hot. We're coming in hot
I
in
mean, we might be
Chicago.
going to a Cubs game. That's all I'm saying.
We will be. I mean, again, as I feel that as one of my hometowns, Chicago, in the summertime, you cannot beat summertime shy, as I say. So we'll be rolling in hot on our 20th anniversary, going nuts. So look out for us. And actually, folks, come check out Randy and the Tri-Merit Teams Conference. The lineup is great. They've published it. Take a look at it. But we will be up there. The first time you and I have ever shared the stage talking about
It'll
how
be
we've
fun.
managed to not
Kill each
kill each
other.
other of the years. That's the topic. So all right, let's we can keep going on forever with this. Lots of good milestones. We'd love to hear from
Let's rate it
others
up,
about their
dude.
firm. Let's rate it up. I've got mine pulled up already. Let me get it up here and then
It'll be bad.
so let me just do this as I drink this beer. Again, a reminder to everybody. Let me just show it to you one more time.
What not to buy
Look
at
at this
Sweetwater.
can.
There are lots of good Sweetwater beers. Do not buy the gummies. IPA.
I would just not recommend it. Okay, so we're gonna here's where let's rate this one. It tastes like, let me just do one more tasting before. When you smell it,
It's it's already a 2.89 down there.
it smells like somebody dropped a bunch of candy on a movie theater floor. It's just this sweet, like sticky, not appealing. It's like, just not really. And when you taste it, oh my
Just bad.
gosh, it's just like a bunch of melted Jolly Ranchers that someone stuck in a beer. This is awful. This is absolutely horrible. I cannot, if
Rate
this
it,
doesn't,
dude.
if this
Rate
doesn't
it.
win,
The
you
worst
get a
beer of the year.
you get a 0.5.
A 0.5. Man, that's gonna be
This is
bad.
awful. It's a terrible beer. And if
Well, mine's
something can
outside of
beat
my
this,
comfort zone, just for the record. So
and it is again
the Flatiron Fog, you probably already rated this one.
I have rated it.
So I'm gonna go with a I'll keep it there. 4.5. It looks great, dude. Confirm us.
Confirmed you. Um, man, I'm so between the two beers, somewhere we were in a two. If you average them together, this damn thing is just
Okay.
people. We can
Go
do
dump it
better.
out, dude.
But one thing I will tell you this year is we're gonna get a bunch of wild beers on here. We're not gonna go for just the regular stuff. We're gonna get weird. We're gonna get let's
It's
get weird on Drink What You Think.
sounds good,
So,
dude.
all right,
Cheers.
everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Cheers, mi amigo, and we'll see y'all next time.